What's good, you guys? Rasati out here in Singapore. You know what it is. I'm back on this podcast, Night Owl Podcast, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the fact that we finally finished one day at a time. I'm so upset, actually. It's almost like reading a really good book, and you come to the end of the book, and you gotta take like a day and be like, oh, man, we went through some trials and tribulations there, and it was interesting, but we made it through, and I'm going to miss you guys. It's almost like a farewell. It's almost like, that day that you sign yearbooks before you cut out of school or whatever. That's what it feels like. Anyway, One Day at a Time is about a Cuban family living in, I think it's New York. I want to say it's New York. And just, the kinds of things that they're going through in a modern family setting. You've got 3 generations in a house. You have, grandmother, mother, child, 2 kids, male and female. You have conversations about sex, you have conversations about drugs, you have conversations about addiction and being a veteran and, finding out about your sexuality and your individuality and how you identify yourself, all those things. It was great. I seriously enjoyed it. And guess what? Baby girl actually watched every episode with me. And there was some tough episodes in there. I had to explain a lot of things. But you know what? I like that because it's not happening to us, but we can discuss it as it happens to somebody else. And it's not really like gossiping because there's nobody we know is a character on a TV show. So this is why I do the therapy the way that I do them. I really love using movies because then you don't feel so like put upon. You don't feel so, oh my gosh, I'm being attacked. It's not personal in any way, but you get to talk about issues the way that they happen in the real world, just removed a little bit because it's not actually happened to you at the time. So this episode of the Night Owl Podcast has to do with one line in an episode where the main character, Lupita, Penelope, is actually going through therapy. It's a veterans group. They're talking about, coping in the real world after having served tours with the army, and they're trying to, just kind of vent a little bit, and it's talk therapy. I love it. It's just a group of people, it's a support network, and they're just talking about some stuff. And she gets to a point where she's worried about the fact that her mom knows she's going to therapy, and her mom has kind of gotten her of the fact that it is therapy and it's not a bad thing. It's what she needs to do for herself. But the question comes up and Penelope has to answer honestly saying, hey, I haven't told my kids yet because I don't want them to think I'm broken. I don't want them to think I'm weak. Yes, I have anxiety and depression, but I want them to think that I'm whole enough to raise them. And the leader of the support group said, look, I need you to understand something. Yes, you have anxiety and depression, but that does not make you unstable. And that was something I really, really wanted to talk about. I was itching to get up on here and record right away because it's major and it's true. You could be dealing with all kind of demons in your mind, but if you're able to function and you're able to separate reality from fantasy or whatever dreamlike state you might be dealing with sometimes when you're in those places, those dark places, if you're able to function pretty normally, you are stable. It means you have a pretty good grip on reality. It doesn't mean that you're not prone to having episodes. It doesn't mean that you're not, going to have emotions at some point that overwhelm you. All of us do. But you are still considered stable. That includes people that are on medication because they're trying to correct hormonal imbalances that add to these states of depression and anxiety. You are still stable. You have found a way to stabilize. You have found a way to cope in the real world. Like I said, it doesn't mean that you won't have those moments where you're overwhelmed. It doesn't mean that you won't have those moments where you need to reach out and ask for help. You need a hug from your mom. You need your husband to step in. You need a therapist or whatever. That does not make you unstable. If anything, it's a little bit more stable because you recognize the need for help. You recognize the fact that you are not able in these moments to do very well on your own. You realize that you need someone with you. If anything, just to watch over you to make sure you come out of it okay. So in my book, that makes you a little more stable because you're self-aware. You know you so well that you know when you need to ask for help and when you don't. I need you guys to really hear me on this. Suffering from anxiety, suffering from depression, suffering from post-traumatic stress responses, Okay? Feeling like you have OCD, feeling like you have ADHD, any of those things, they do not make you unstable. If they were able to name it for you, it means you know what to do next. You know how to handle it. There is a diagnosis of sorts. Now, some of us, we go for years without actually being professionally diagnosed. I know I have anxiety. I know I have depression. I've never been diagnosed by anybody. You know how I know I have anxiety? I wake up with panic attacks. I wake up in a state of mind where I am worried and so worried that I can't lift my body up out of bed. I feel like I've been stapled into the bed. I feel like I can't take a deep breath in. My chest hurts when I try to breathe in. My abdomen feels like there's a vice grip around it, like I'm being squeezed to death. And a lot of times I got to start speaking out loud and talk to myself and tell myself, hey, what are you worried about now? What could possibly be so scary a situation that you can't get out of bed right now? And I'm telling you, it happens more times than not. And it took me a long time to realize that this is what was happening. And even longer for someone to tell me, hey, you know what? That's called a panic attack. I had no idea. I've been dealing with this phenomenon, this vice grip feeling, waking up to a vice grip feeling since I was a teenager. And I didn't know. I just figured, oh my gosh, something's wrong with me. And eventually I realized, okay, if I can talk myself out of this, I can talk myself down from this, where my body kind of relaxes a little bit enough for me to get out of bed. But it wasn't until recent years where someone said, oh yeah, that's a panic attack. And I was like, really? Shit. I had no idea. I've been doing this forever and I had no idea. So, does that make me less stable that I have panic attacks? I don't think so. Because I'm still raising my child by myself. I'm still managing to, feed her by myself. I am not taking out loans. I am not begging people for anything. I'm doing the best I can on my own. No, I'm not very good about asking for help, but I know that about myself now, so I'm a little more cognizant, I'm a little more aware. But knowing that I do suffer from anxiety is a big deal for me. Knowing what to do in those moments, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. And when it don't, I know who to call. I need someone to talk to. I go through bouts of depression. I go through moments where I think, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? Why am I even here? Like, I can't get anything right. It would be better if I wasn't here. If I could be quiet for a whole year, I'm pretty sure people around me would feel better and I could just disappear into the background. Like, what am I here for? I go through moments like that. I go through days like that. Luckily for me, I can pull my head out of my ass sometimes and pretend to be happy with baby girl sometimes until the pretending catches on. Sometimes it doesn't work like that. Sometimes I'm short with her and I yell at her and I feel badly afterwards, but I know what it is. I just can't get out of the funk. And sometimes I can ask for help and someone reaches back and they're able to help me. And sometimes they don't. They don't answer the phone because they got their own things going on. Sometimes I can make myself cry with a movie and I feel better afterwards. And sometimes the crying doesn't help. But I know that about me. So when I tell you, knowing who you are, knowing the things that you have a weakness in or need help with, knowing the things that you have trouble with, that makes you more self-aware. That makes you stronger than most, because a lot of people can't even admit when they don't have it all together. They can't even admit that they need help. I have family members who are really lovely, lovely people, and some of them will never, ever tell you that they have a drinking problem, although the rest of the world can see it. Some of them will never, ever tell you that they have a temper problem, although most people will avoid them because they don't want to get in a fight with them. Most people probably tell you that I have a temper problem because I have a tendency to start fighting with people. It's just that I call bullshit a lot and people don't like that. So yeah, I don't talk to a lot of people. But the point being, I know this about myself. And I know when it's appropriate and when it's not. And sometimes I can control it and sometimes I can't. But knowing about it, I believe, makes me stable. Knowing is half the battle. Putting things into place where I can catch myself or pull myself out of that rut, that's another step towards stable. It's towards stable, not away from it. Sometimes you need to know what the problem is in order to figure out what the best solution is for that. Because if you don't even know what you're dealing with, you could try everything under the sun and it won't work. So trust me when I tell you, if you've been diagnosed or you don't, you haven't been, either way, depression happens. Anxiety happens. It happens to the best of us. You could have had your whole life under control forever and suddenly this quarantine got you crawling the walls. It's okay. It is a natural part of life. Now what you do about that becomes your choice at that point. Understanding who you are and then doing something about it, that's called maturity. That's called self-help, self-development, self-awareness, all of that. Trust me, admitting that you have a need for help in certain areas in life, that is a bold, vulnerable, courageous move. And it only puts you closer towards being more yourself, more safe, more understood, more stable. If you got any questions or concerns, drop them in the comments below. I'll be happy to help you out. If you want to just skip to the part where you get to talk to me, hit me up, send me a DM. Let's talk. But honestly, don't beat yourself up. Don't feel badly. Don't ever feel ashamed. You know who you are first. And then let's figure out how you can be the best version of yourself in spite of these moments of weakness sometimes. Okay? I got you. Just reach out if you need help. All right, you guys, I'm going to call it now. I'll talk to you guys again soon. I love you all. Bye.